Banded together from remote galaxies are 13 of the most sinister villains of all time, the Legion of Doom. Dedicated to a single objective, the conquest of the universe. Only one group dares to challenge this intergalactic threat.
Also, 3 Men in the Basement, all one word. And I have a co-host, Mr. Roger Levesque, on Instagram, Bernie1869 on Instagram. We are all on Instagram as those said above names. So now, finally, after a week off, I'm going to give you what I think is going to be the best story that I can give you right now. And it's going to be in 4 parts. So I'm not going to kick you all the knowledge right now. I'm going to give it to you in 4 parts. So we're going to start about the femme fatale of the X-Men, Miss Jean Grey herself, all right? And this is what we're going to talk about as her as Marvel Girl and Marvel Girl only. So this is going to be a 4-part series. So I'm going to keep you hanging to kick you all the knowledge that I can. So Jean Grey, as we know, goes through lots of evolutions. But before all this happens, she was a young girl, very young. Her mutant abilities manifested at a very young age. Her parents were college professors, and she had an older sister. She had a very loving home life. But at a young age, she saw something very tragic where her best friend died in a car accident. And that's when her mutant powers manifested, and she actually went into the mind of her friend and went through the same type of death almost that her friend went through. And that was very traumatic for her. And that's when her mutant powers actually manifested. She went into a coma because of this. And they didn't know what to do. And somebody somehow told her about Charles Xavier. So Dad sought out Charles Xavier, and they went to Xavier School for the Gifted. And that's when it all started to go into the X-Men, all right? So Jean Grey was actually the last member of the X-Men to join. Charles Xavier knew that she was very, very powerful at a young age. So her first abilities were telekinetics. Telekinetics is being able to use your minds to move certain objects, okay? And what's very unique about this, in 1963, when she first came out in issue 1 of X-Men, how could Jack Kirby draw this? How could he show a panel of her and then next panel something's moving? He drew dotted lines, very wavy, very movie to show movement. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant, especially for the time, because can you imagine being in the 60s and Stan Lee says, hey, she has telekinesis, she can move things with her mind, and Jack Kirby could be like, how do you expect me to draw that, Stan? And he just said, figure it out. So that's what happened. Her uniform, her outfit as the X-Men was kind of bland to start, very curvaceous, and it went through a couple evolutions. Jean Grey is a very powerful personality, all right? She has a couple great outfits. Bobby Drake first started hitting on her. Scott Summers was always kind of on the outlier, and we know what happens with that relationship. She goes through a couple different versions, as you can see right here, of her outfits. I've got a couple different versions of her drawn by other artists. But again, up until the reprints, she got a lot of comic book time, but it was always on the ancillary basis, right? She was always in the background of the forefront. But on this cover right here, you really see her front and center, which I think is a great X-Men cover, very classic cover, all right? Also, she didn't get along with other women, all right? And we didn't have many other women in the Marvel comic universe, but we did have Scarlet Witch, all right? And Jean always wanted to test her powers against her, so they have a little hen fight, and that's in a couple episodes, a couple issues, and you can see that through the pictures that I have. Professor Xavier had a crush on her, but he was kind of falling in love with her. This didn't last very long. I think they ended it very quickly, but you definitely see him in this panel talking about how can she love me when I'm stuck and confined in this wheelchair. Professor Xavier knew she was very powerful. So true to the movies, he did put all these blocks in place to help limit her powers. She is a very loving and caring individual, okay? And she was very self-conscious of her powers at a young age. Again, you're a teenager, you're going through all these things, all these hormones going through you, and you have superpowers, so that was very difficult. She uses her powers to the best of her ability. It's almost like how Sue Storm had to use her powers to focus them and move them forward. She was able to use her telekinesis through stuff in the danger room, through simulations, and through just using them in person, how to use her powers. the correct way, all right? Her costume changes a little bit, and in the 3rd or 4th episode, I'm going to show you this picture and focus on Marvel Girl when she is on trial, as the Phoenix is on trial. This is a version by John Byrne. I absolutely love this version, and you don't see Byrne draw this costume very often, okay? Dave Cockrum didn't even draw that costume, all right? So really, Steranko and Neil Adams was very hard for me to find versions of her in this, so I had to go digging on some, up in Google and stuff like that. I went through the Marvel Universe to find some information about this. We all know what happens with Jean Grey, but Marvel Girl, again, just a great character, a steadfast character, the femme fatale of the group, and later on. So what I'm talking about is only through issue 1 through the reprints, okay? And then Giant Size X-Men in 94 will be my next episode. So again, Jean Grey, very powerful, mutant powers manifested at a very young age, telekinetics, not a telepath just yet. Whether it was retconned that Professor Xavier was holding those powers back or she hadn't developed them yet, that's to be determined. I feel that she didn't have those powers yet. Her mutant powers hadn't grown to that ability. She hadn't gone through that stage of evolution. Femke Janssen played a great Jean Grey, I thought, in the X-Men movies. The red hair, very attractive. The new girl in the Dark Phoenix saga, I'm from Game of Thrones. I like her as an actress. I thought she did a great job to start. We're going to see how this goes. I hope they don't screw it up. I have high hopes, but we're not talking about the movies. We're talking about the comics. So these are some pictures that I've added. I've only spent a couple minutes. So the next episode will be from X-Men Giant Size 1, 94 through 137, where we're going to talk about Jean Grey and her evolution as Phoenix. So thank you very much for watching this quick video on Marvel Girl. I am Otto. This is my Grotto, and I am out. Peace.